Is weird, odd, strange, or just plain bizarre is really your cup of tea? Then the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast will give you that fix. Can't believe it? Well, listen for yourself as we deliver the strangest news you definitely won't find on CNN or Fox. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast.
Hello and welcome. Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Weird News Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Emily Ferrier, here to bring you some of my favorite weird news stories from this past few days. Starting us off this week, this title reads, "You Gotta Be Kidding," about what someone's just used as a library bookmark. This hails from England. This University of Liverpool library in the northwest of England revealed what someone had used as a bookmark in one of its books. A plastic wrapped slice of undetermined cheese. Now, undetermined cheese, if it's plastic wrapped, we all know what kind of cheese it is, right? The best kind of cheese makes the best grilled cheese sandwiches. We're all aware of it. If you know anything about Liverpool, this just sounds pretty standard. What's unclear from the story is what book it was actually used inside. But we can imagine what it might be. You know, is it something to do with the moon? That was poor on my part. Library staff tossed this up on Twitter, and obviously the internet chimed in quite a bit. One tweet read, "I once worked in a public library where a customer had used a rasher of crispy bacon as the bookmark. Would have left some stains. I'd take your cheese bookmark and raise you the crunch cream bookmark." Crunch cream is UK for golden Oreo, in case you don't know. Another one reads, "Oh my God, after 30 years in libraries, this is a new one. I've had a rasher of streaky bacon, a condom, a slice of toast, buttered, and 85 pounds in notes. Separate occasions and customers managed to track down the owner of the cash and return it." The article read, "This, sir, is not a bookmark." And this person tweeted, "I disagree. If it was placed in a book to mark its page, it is functionally a bookmark." It's a good point. Who are we to dispute what a proper bookmark is and what it's not, you know? Other bookmark horror stories. I found onion skins. I mean, what else are you going to use an onion skin for? Some people threw out some puns, like someone's misplaced their library curds. Hilarious. Opened up a volume in the Central Library the other week and had a trouser leg fall out. Trouser leg. Yeah. Pant leg for us Americans. I'll never side with bookmark prescriptivists. A bookmark is defined by its function, not whether by a man says it can be used by a bookmark or not. Does a mark you place in a book, then it's a bookmark. Amen. And if they weren't reading the great, spelled like grating cheese, Gatsby, I'd be bitterly disappointed. Can't bear it when people do this. Unbelievable. Hilarious. This isn't the only weird library story that I found this week. This one hails from America itself. Someone keeps stashing bottles of steak sauce around a library in Ohio. Thrilling stuff. We're all very excited. A mouth-watering mystery. Staff at Avon Lake Public Library in Ohio are scratching their heads as to who keeps planting empty A1 sauce bottles around the building. And for what reason? Since January, employees have found 30 of the 10-ounce containers hidden on shelves amongst newspapers and magazines. All were clean with just a hint of the sauce odor inside. I guess the odor is hard to get rid of. The library revealed in a Facebook post. We mapped the first 12 to see if we could find a pattern, but we couldn't find a discernible pattern. Yeah, the MO was hard to place. Jill Ralston, the library's public relations coordinator, doubted any bad-natured intent on the part of the anonymous prankster. Unless, of course, it was, a Texas barbecue sauce hater that was combating it with A1 sauce. Staff have suggested the bottle's baffling appearance could be linked to the geocache located just outside of the library. Of course, once this went onto the social media, as you can imagine, the crowd went wild with much more fun puns. What do we think about these fun stories? Putting food into books. If they were cooking books, you could see something accidentally getting spilled or something, right? That I could see happening for sure. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I could forgive that, I don't agree with wasting food in such a careless, reckless manner. How awful. How dare you waste barbecue sauce like that. I love a condiment. I put barbecue sauce in everything. I'm lactose intolerant, so, for me, the cheese thing is neither here nor there. However, that kind of cheese is barely cheese, so I'd probably be fine, Yeah, anything could be a bookmark. Using cheese as a bookmark, it's the right, flatness that those, plastic wrapped slices. The barbecue sauce is kind of baffling to me. It feels kind of threatening. Like you're threatening a book barbecue, right? Like a book burning. Kind of menacing, if you think about it like that. I prefer ketchup, personally. A little mustard. Relish. Mayo, right? Barbecue sauce is, it's got a place, for sure. Is anybody else one of those people that uses barbecue sauce on eggs? I knew a lot of people that use, A1 sauce on eggs. I don't know how I feel about that. I get ketchup on eggs. Barbecue sauce, is that too much? Have we gone too far with this condiment? Have we gone too far when we're littering libraries with A1 sauce? I don't know. Guys. The jury's out on this one. I mean, probably helped their sales a little bit. Interesting little media move, right? I mean, I don't know how much people read anymore. Although there was an article recently that said that more people read or checked out books in America this past year than went to the movies. So libraries are looking up, guys. But now they're also apparently the snack places. So there's that. All right, that's it for weird food in library news. I guess there's a reason you're not supposed to eat in libraries now. When we come back, we're going to talk about an awkward way to describe a boulder when we return from the break.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Welcome back from the break. While the commercials were on, I made myself a grilled cheese sandwich that I dipped in barbecue sauce and put into my bookmarked page of my favorite biography. I hope you all did too. This next story comes to us from Colorado. It went viral recently. A sheriff's department has attempted to describe this boulder, goes delightfully awry, publicly on Twitter. You make a mistake on Twitter, you know it's going to go viral. You know people are going to nail you for it. You know, one mistake in there, you're done. But either way, we're still going to make fun of him. It's a large boulder that also happens to be a small one. The San Miguel Sheriff's Office in Colorado sent a tweet on Monday that was meant to alert motorists about a boulder on the road. The message went viral far beyond the state. Well, because of the way that he described it. He said it was a large boulder that could be the size of a small one. The sheriff's office never acknowledged the little weird way of describing this tweet. Agency noted that the boulder had been removed, which led to more pleas to clarify its size. Later on, no doubt in response to a landslide of requests, the description became more specific. The boulder that fell onto Highway 145 at Silver Pick Road outside of Tula Road was approximately 4 feet by 4 feet by 4 feet and weighed about 10,000 pounds, the agency wrote. Still didn't answer the question about whether it was a large boulder or a small one. Rock fans from all over, really, demanded to know more about the size of this small boulder. Or was it a small, large boulder? And then we got so many tweets. First response, did a self-conscious boulder write this? Oh, so sad. So sad. One with a little bit of, anxiety about its size. Another tweet, on an otherwise bleak day. This tweet is bringing me real joy. New phrase for every obstacle in my life. A large boulder, the size of a small boulder. Spoken like a true optimist, If we looked at every large boulder like it was the size of a small boulder, we could conquer it. Another tweet reads, Schrodinger's boulder, large and small at the same time. That one's for the deep philosophers out there. Schrodinger's cat. For those of you that don't know. A unique way to write medium boulder, reads another one. Was, you forget the size for medium. Starbucks is rebranded medium, and all of us, we have trouble keeping it together. Another one reads, don't bother me with large boulders the size of small boulders. My time is important. Call me when it's a large boulder, the size of a large boulder. Yeah, makes sense. You know, why be worried about the small boulders that are large, that are small, that are large? Another one reads, retweet if you believe this boulder should just be called a large boulder to boost this boulder's self-esteem. That's nice. It's nice to advocate for the boulder like that. You know? There's not enough people sticking their necks out for the little guys. I appreciate that tweet a lot for that. You know, too many times, boulders don't get enough credit for their size. They're called small because relative to a mountain, of course, they're tiny, but that's a heavy boulder. 10,000 pounds, you know? That's a large boulder, baby. Let's call it for what it is. Another one has a little nice back and forth, a little comical back and forth scene, like an A-B improv scene. For those of you who weren't cool in high school like me. Reads like this, dude, you should have seen this boulder. Was it large? Hell yeah, it was large. How big? As large as a small boulder. Small boulder? Damn. That's a large boulder. It's either scene from Wayne's World or Dude, Where's My Car? Very clever. The next one reads, I'm missing a boulder, and I wonder what adjectives you might use to describe the boulder that was cleared. Thanks in advance, and also after the fact. That tweet is just as confusing as the first one that it was trying to tease. I think that's the joke there. Now, the next one says, would you rather get attacked by a large boulder the size of a small boulder, or lots of small boulders the size of a big boulder? Now, when you're playing Super Mario, right, the large boulder, you think dodging one object, right, would be a little bit easier than dodging a bunch of little ones. But if the large boulder covers most of the surface area, you know, maybe you're in more danger doing that. Jury's out on that for me. Not quite sure which one I would rather do. I think dodging a bunch would be more fun. You know? There's like a lot more at stake that way. And the final tweet, but did you need a large plow or a small plow to do the job? That's the real question here. It's the real philosopher's debacle. Was it a large plow or a small plow? You know, to get this large, small boulder. Kind of feel bad for this sheriff, you know, that's kind of, I mean, he made a little blunder. It goes out in one tweet, and before he can even delete it, you know, it's gone absolutely viral. We're relentless people, but nonetheless, that's hilarious, right? We can all acknowledge that it's a very funny little blunder. A boulder blunder, if you will. That's it for my boulder news today. Maybe we'll have some italicized news as a font joke for you. Hope you enjoyed that. When we return, we are headed to Miami for some very peculiar things falling from the sky. It's not rain. It's not acid rain. But it is a creature. So while you're on break, I want you to think about what creature could be possibly falling from the sky in Miami. And we'll see if you're right when you come back from the break. Yeah.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
You had some time to think about it. What did you guess over the break was falling from the sky in Miami? Think about it. Hold on to it. You're about to be proven right or wrong. The National Weather Service routinely warns people about falling rain, snow, and hail, but the temperatures are dropping so low in South Florida that the forecasters warned residents Tuesday about falling iguanas. This isn't something we usually forecast, but don't be surprised if you see iguanas falling from trees tonight as lows drop below 40s into 30s. Very cold. NWS Miami tweeted, the low temperatures stun the invasive reptiles, but iguanas won't necessarily die. It means many will take up as temperatures, or that will wake up, as temperatures rise on Wednesday. Iguanas aren't dangerous or aggressive to humans, but they damage seawalls, sidewalks, landscape foliage, and can dig lengthy tunnels. Males can grow at least 5 feet, 1.5 meters long, and weigh nearly 20 pounds, 9 kilograms. That's a heavy iguana. Female iguanas can lay nearly 80 eggs a year. In South Florida's warm climate, it's perfect for the prehistoric-looking animals. Iguanas are native to Central America, tropical parts of South America, and some Caribbean islands. Iguanas are allowed to be kept as pets in Florida, but not protected by any law except anti-cruelty to animals, thankfully. They've been in South Florida since the 1960s, but their numbers have increased dramatically in recent years. Iguanas are very dramatic things. Throughout recorded history, there are scores of documented examples of anomalous animals falling from the sky. Scores of them. Scores is not a word you hear describing things very often, right? I mean, unless you're a Shakespearean actor, I guess, then you probably hear it a lot. So these, the most common in documented history, falling from the sky, see if you can guess it. Would you assume birds dying and falling out of the sky? You'd be wrong. Fish! Fish falls are one of the most strange phenomena, which often defy explanation. While waterspouts and or tornadoes are known to sometimes suck up fish into the sky, carry them inland, and drop them onto unsuspecting landlubbers. There are many cases without plausible meteorological causes. Case in point, residents of Fulshire, Texas, were horrified by a rain of fish that littered homes and gardens with reeking, mangled corpses of fish, the lesser-known sequel to the classic horror film Birds. Even stranger, meteorologists say there were no tornadoes or waterspouts in the area, which could have accounted for the rain of fish. So, what exactly happened in this Texas town? Let's get into it. Houston news outlet Click to Houston reported that around 10 homes in the Cross Creek Ranch subdivision found fish scattered throughout their property on the afternoon of January 16th. According to some reports, some residents found up to 100 fish on their property, while others found a dozen or fewer. Most of the fish were threaded fin shad, a freshwater fish that is most common throughout the southeastern United States. Many of the fish exploded on impact, creating a grisly and curious scene for baffled Texas homeowners. Exploded on impact. Just from the impact, do we think? Or from the sheer force of being whipped around the world? Or possibly just, being under different pressure densities. One Fulshire man named Ryan Metz described the discovery as weird. Very articulate, right? Weird. Who would have thought? I looked down, and there it was, just lying there. 3 or 4 fish, and I started walking around, found about 15. Few in the pool, so it was weird. I think Tim Burton would have loved this ending for his 2006 film Big Fish, one of my favorite films of all time. It was interesting, to say the least. That's his wife, Dana, added. Especially when, given the weather recorded on the day of the fish fall, most of central Texans were experiencing an ice storm that day. The weather nerds say that the conditions observed that day don't quite explain how the fish could have ended up in the sky miles from the closest body of water. Houston-based National Weather Service meteorologist Dan Riley told the Fortean that weather doesn't quite support the waterspout or the tornado theory. Radar shows no thunderstorms, really just stratiform precipitation. Waterspouts, tornadoes would not make sense from the meteorology of the day, and no hint of rotation or anything odd on radar. Remains a mystery, as far as I'm concerned. Another theory is that the fish became essentially mummified when a near pond or lake dried up, allowing their much lighter, desiccated bodies to be carried by the wind. Still, that doesn't really sound plausible, given the sheer numbers of fish and the heights at which they were found on the roofs of homes. What might explain this anomalous fish fall or any other unexplained animal reigns and records through the history? With a little luck, we'll never know. The world needs more mystery. More weird news. More weird news. That's what I say. With the current cold snap we're experiencing right now in many states and of course in Canada, we hope that we'll see some other strange animals falling from the sky. Ideally, I would like some cats, because we can always use a little company. I think cats are the best company. They're cuddly. You need to earn their affection. And I like it. I like working for it. All of this talking about fish has made my cat come over here. So if you hear her making noises, that's what that is. All right. When we come back from the break, we're going to Johannesburg. When we return for a weird story.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA, from the UFC, Invicta FC, Bellator, and One Championship. We got the fights covered. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Welcome back from the break. I hope you were safe from the falling fish after that last story. Welcome back. So we're going to talk about this story from Johannesburg, where a male baboon carrying and grooming a lion cub happened over the weekend in South Africa's Kruger National Park. The baboon took the cub up a tree, preened it as if it were its own, said safari operator Kurt Schultz, who in 20 years had never ever seen such behavior. We can only imagine it was inspired by the recent remake of The Lion King, starring Donald Glover and Beyonce. The baboon was grooming the lion cub as if it was a baby baboon. Schultz said in an email to the Associated Press, "Male baboons do a lot of grooming, but the care given to this lion cub was the same care given by a female baboon to one of her own young." That's pretty beautiful. Schultz said when he first saw the baboons early on Saturday morning, the troop of baboons was excited and animated. It's possible they discovered the lion cub then. Baboons had gathered in the area with granite hills and boulders where lions and leopards have been known to hide their cubs while they go hunting. Baboons are really strong animals. They were all excited and fighting over the baby in the beginning. Could have been injured internally, he guesses. It was a hot morning. The cub was showing signs of dehydration. While the rest of the baboon troop settled down, the male moved from branch to branch, grooming and carrying the cub for a long time. While at rest, the baboon troop settled down. Male moved from branch to branch, grooming and carrying the cub. Seemed very exhausted, the cub. "I don't see a chance of this poor cub surviving." The troop of baboons was large and the lion would not be able to get the young back. So it's pretty lovely, you know, to see that happening. Let's hope that the cub does all right. I liked the little picture that this one came from. It really does look like Rafiki holding up little Simba, which is the name of my cat who is still sitting here. So wanted to talk a little about the story of the Lion King and what it would be like in real life. So we're going to talk about the biology of lions a little bit. Disney has long since captivated its audiences with the menagerie of animal characters. The Lion King is no exception. Zazu in the boab tree, the wild beast idly chewing on some grass, causes a tragic stampede, or the herds of trotting impala, and jumping springboks. There's a deeper connection there with some of the lion behavior in the park. A classic tale of the Lion King. For here, in the national park, there is a love story unfolding of epic proportions. Simba and Nala in the park defy the laws of common lion behavior. This Nala here in real life will fight for her Simba, even if it means separating from her pride. This is not normal behavior for lions, so this story is particularly exciting. Female lions usually form a pride. The male lions form a coalition involving 3 or 4 members. They mate with 2 prides. Sometimes a male lion will break out on his own, while the female always stays close to her pride. But in the park in Madaraba Safari Lodge, an 11-year-old female lion is bonded with a 13-year-old male in a rare pairing. So it's very hard for them not to see the Lion King connection. The ranger is clearly moved by their connection for its divergence from the science as much as for its emotional significance. Male has never mated with another female. That's rare. Female has mated with other males but has never had cubs. So Sol predicts that it would not be aware of her activities. It's a love story of note. Biggest love story I've ever seen, says Sol. I've only seen them apart 3 times. And I've been doing 2 game drives a day for 3 years in this park. Game drive passengers are lucky to witness some great tenderness between the pair, whether with a gentle head rubs or mutual grooming. They're not always lazing close, but they're never more than a couple of meters apart. Male is under threat because 4 new male lions have been brought into the park, which is a privately owned area of 2,300 in the Murakili National Park in the Limpopo region, northwest South Africa. They're young and keen to build new territories, which is causing the old king great anxiety. He's marking his territory, and the magnificent Nala is sticking to his side. She would be aware of what's happening and would definitely stick up for him if she had to, although she's never had any cubs, which is normally the main reason that a lioness would fight. Very strange for a lioness to fight for something that can normally defend itself. Usually the females do the hunting, the male knocks them off to have the first offing at the kill, along with any cubs who might be there. But I've seen him pick up a whole zebra and take it to her while she was resting, eating only some of it first. These 2 lions are very unusual. We only have 19 lions, which is not a large number for this size park. Can afford to have more lions than that. He's really holding his own, an impressive show of strength. We're not sure how long that can last. Given that survival rate of lions is only 8%, they've both done very well to last this long. Absolutely loved that story of the 2 lions falling in love, just like Simba and Nala, from one of my favorite Disney films of all time, The Lion King. Like I said, I named my cat after it. She's right there. Yeah, pretty interesting story, that lion falling in love and the real life baboon, Rafiki and Simba. When we come back, we're going to talk Bermuda Triangle. Something I've not spoken about on this before. Some mysteries when we return.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America's Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America's Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America's Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back. Before the break, we were talking about the real life Simba and Nala and Rafiki. And now that we're back to it, a mysterious Bermuda Triangle ghost ship discovered 95 years after it vanished. 95 years after the vanishing of this ship, the prodigal nautical returns. Before we get into that, what is the Bermuda Triangle? If you don't know, for decades, the Atlantic Ocean's fabled Bermuda Triangle has captured the human imagination with unexplained disappearances of ships, planes, and people. Some speculate that unknown and mysterious forces account for the unexplained disappearances, such as extraterrestrials capturing humans for study, the influence of the lost continent of Atlantis, vortices that have sucked objects into other dimensions, and other whimsical ideas. Some explanations are grounded in science, if not actual evidence. This includes oceanic flatulence, methane gas erupting from the ocean sediments or farts, and disruptions in geomagnetic lines of flux. Environmental considerations could explain many, if not most, of the disappearances. The majority of Atlantic tropical storms and hurricanes pass through the Bermuda Triangle, and in the days prior to improved weather forecasting, these dangerous storms claimed many ships. Also, the Gulf Stream can cause rapid, sometimes violent changes in weather. Additionally, the large number of islands in the Caribbean Sea creates many areas of shallow water. It can be treacherous to ship navigation. And there is some evidence to suggest that Bermuda Triangle is a place where magnetic compass sometimes points towards true north, as opposed to magnetic north. The U.S. Navy and U.S. Coast Guard contend that there are no supernatural explanations for disasters at sea. Their experience suggests that combined forces of nature and human fallibility outdo even the most incredulous science fiction. In other words, it's more likely that we are dumb than that we are being invaded. They add that no official maps exist to delineate the boundaries of the Bermuda Triangle. The U.S. Board of Geographic Names does not recognize the Bermuda Triangle and does not maintain an official file on the area. The ocean has always been a mysterious place to humans, and when foul weather or poor navigation is involved, it can be a very deadly place. This is true all over the world. There's no evidence that mysterious disappearances occur with any great frequency in the Bermuda Triangle than any other well-traveled area of the ocean. But nonetheless, these conspiracies are fun. The long-lost wreck of the SS Cotopaxi a steamship referenced in movies, memes, and myths, has been discovered off the coast of St. Augustine, Florida, almost a century after vanishing into the Bermuda Triangle. It was incredibly exciting. Michael Barnett, the diver and author and researcher who helped find the wreck, said, "I've done countless numbers of shipwreck dives, but this is one that truly stood out." Barnett's the lead explorer of Shipwreck Secrets, a new Science Channel series that will feature the discovery of the Cotopaxi in its premiere episode. The Cotopaxi set off from Charleston, South Carolina, bound for Havana, Cuba, November 29th, 1925, and then vanished. No trace of the ship or its crew of 32 were ever identified, which made the vessel ripe for both folklore and pop culture. Steven Spielberg's 1977 classic Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Cotopaxi reappears in the middle of the Gobi Desert. In recent years, social media memes have suggested that the Cotopaxi had suddenly appeared, empty and intact as a ghost ship, floating off the coast of Cuba. That one was passed around so often that Snopes published an entire page debunking it. Because, don't believe everything you read on the internet. As it turned out, the ship wasn't quite missing. Barnett and his team combed through the historical documents, including paperwork from the ship's insurer to a previously known distress call sent by the Cotopaxi on December the 1st, after the missing ship was reported. By mapping the ship's route, the coordinates of the signal, and other hints from the documents, they honed in a site discovered 35 years ago known as the Bear Wreck. Ship's site had never been identified, however. Barnett said the evidence and paperwork combined of the Bear Wreck led to one conclusion. It was the SS Cotopaxi. There were several elements that confirmed the identity, such as the dimensions of the ship, its length, and measurement of the boiler. I also looked at the general orientation of the machinery. It was all consistent with the information that we knew about the Cotopaxi. While St. Augustine is not located within the so-called Bermuda Triangle, the ship's mysterious disappearance in the general vicinity led some to connect the ship's legendary region, the Bermuda Triangle, loosely defined portion of the Atlantic, stretching roughly from Miami to Bermuda to Puerto Rico. Some believe ships and planes are more likely to vanish there. Personally, I believe it's folklore, Barnett says. The U.S. Coast Guard does not recognize this area or its nickname, and the environmental considerations could explain many, if not all, of the disappearances. The ocean has always been a mysterious place to humans. When foul weather or poor navigation is involved, it can be a very deadly place. This is true all over the world. There's no evidence that mysterious disappearances occur to any greater frequency in the Bermuda Triangle than any other large, well-traveled area of the ocean. 2018, one scientist claimed that the area could be more dangerous, just not for supernatural reasons. The oceanographer Simon Boxall from the University of Southampton posited that storms from the north and south could meet in the area, leading to rogue waves of up to 100 feet. If you want to tune in to Shipwreck Secrets to learn more about this, it'll be on February 9th at 8 p.m. on the Science Channel, Eastern Time, Pacific Time, followed by the premiere of a second new series, Curse of the Bermuda Triangle, if you're interested by all of this. When we come back from the break, we're going to do a roundup of my favorite shower thoughts from the week on Reddit. When we return.
The GSMC Life and Happiness podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Hello, welcome back. Before the break, we were talking about the Bermuda Triangle. Potential disappearances due to the strange circumstances revolving this mysterious area of the ocean that the Coast Guard doesn't recognize as a thing. Which is fun. And honestly, it not recognizing it makes me feel a bit like there's more truth to it than we think. Right? I think so. So now we're on to the Reddit shower thoughts. A subreddit dedicated to the miniature epiphanies you have to highlight the oddities with the familiar. In honor of these weird and wonderful and sometimes profound misusings. Here's 25 of the best recent shower thoughts on Reddit. They don't let you smile in passport photos because they want you to look the same as if you were standing in line at customs for an hour. Probably. That would make sense. You know? I'm never stoked about standing in that line. It's annoying. When you're a kid, you don't realize you're also watching your mom and dad grow up. Oh, amen. I just started to realize this kind of recently. I was like, oh my God, my parents are growing up too. That's how life works, you know? The biggest flex is using mobile data in your own home because the Wi-Fi is being slow. I have to do this a lot. I have to use my data. I sometimes have to hyperlink my Mac to it, which I think is absurd. Pavlov probably thought about feeding his dogs every time someone rang a bell. There's the irony, isn't it? It's the ultimate revenge from the dog's point of view. The syllables on your mark, get set, go are a countdown. Whoa! I didn't even think about, oh my gosh. Oh, that's blown my mind. During a nuclear explosion, there's a certain distance of the radius where all the frozen supermarket pizzas are cooked to perfection. So you know, every cloud. Avatar, the highest grossing film of all time, seems to have made zero impact on culture. No one references the movie, and no one really talks about it. Huh. That's true. I mean, I guess it's because we have very little attention spans. We move on very quick. But that's odd. Isn't it? Coffee makes you hyper. But coffee shops are designed for people to chill. Whereas alcohol is a depressant, but bars and clubs are designed for people to be energetic. What do you want from us? You know? This is pressure. Pressure to be fun all the time when it's a depressant. And chill out on the stimulants, you know? Night before a day off is more satisfying than the actual day off. Very true. You know? Because the anticipation is what it is. Being a real grown-up isn't cooking a fancy dinner It's having a clean kitchen when you go to bed after cleaning or cooking a fancy dinner. Oh, that's true. The internet both almost killed off the postal service with an email and then it made it more needed than ever with online delivery. That's nice. That's a nice partnership, isn't it? Biting your tongue when eating is a perfect example of how you can screw up even with decades of experience. Look, I gotta say, I've got several things that are examples of me screwing up with decades of experience. I trip when walking almost every day. If Eminem's mom wanted to, she could probably make a good amount of money selling her own spaghetti sauce. Oh, for sure. I'd buy that, probably. Mom spaghetti, right? Yeah, big time. Although, I wonder if in a Pavlovian response, I would associate it with vomit, because of the next line in that song. Running from the cops is the ultimate double or nothing. Excellent point. Being an adult is eating the crust not because you like it, but because you paid for it. Not even because it's good for you, like they said back in the day. Nobody cares if their deodorant is 24-hour or 48-hour. They're still going to apply it once a day. Yeah, I've never understood that. Monopoly would be more realistic if the person with the most money got to change the rules whenever they liked. Yep. Several examples of that in recent news. An onion is the bass player for food. Probably not enjoy it solo, but you miss it if it wasn't there. I like that. I bet a bass player wrote it. If you were alone when you crack open a peanut shell, then eat the peanut on the inside, you're the only person in the world to have ever seen that peanut. I like that. That is quite profound. Telemarketers have basically ruined the telephone for a tool for contacting people quickly because no one bothers to answer it anymore. That one feels aged. That feels like a Seinfeld shower thought. People are so amazed by the fact that every snowflake is different, but nobody cares that every potato is unique. Yeah. Advocacy for potatoes. If everyone on Earth died simultaneously, the internet would be comprised of entirely bots posting, liking, and upvoting each other. It's just not that different than life now. Quidditch at Hogwarts is play to win, but due to the enormous difference in broom quality and the wealth gap between students. Oh. Babysitters are teenagers who have to behave like grown-ups so that grown-ups can go up and behave like teenagers. That's written by a mom. Growing up is realizing you get more joy out of seeing others open presents than you do from opening your own. That's beautiful. What a way to end off our pod this week. Thank you for listening to the GSMC Weird News Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'd like to ask you to please remember to subscribe to the show and write us a nice review. That'd be nice. I'd like to hear a little feedback from you guys. And rate the episode. That really helps us. Also, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. But ideally not in real life. Thanks again for listening, for subscribing, for upvoting, for liking, and for being all around great listeners and great supporters of the pod. I'll talk to you soon. Have a good night.